Excellent. All right. Welcome everyone to another exciting New Year's episode of the Gin and Tonic Show. We are, as I hope you remember, an online call-in panel discussion show that focuses on the religion of Islam and related topics, in juxtaposition to the propaganda of Muslim apologists, the far right, conservative Christians, and other parties of disinformants. The Gin and Tonic Show aims to bring a balanced perspective to issues pertaining to Islam by presenting accurate information in order to educate its viewers on Islamic history, scripture, theology, potato, and politics.
But we're looking at Islam, all right? We're talking about Islam, which is it's a whole bunch of things. It's not just a religion, it's also a socio-political, socio-economic system. It's an ideology, the political ideology. And I'd love to spend some time on the political ideology today to clarify this a bit, and maybe spend 15 minutes on this. And it's also a worldview, because a worldview is when you pass everything that you experience, everything that you do, everything that you interpret in reality, you pass through that filter. That is what a worldview is. And an atheist does not have a worldview, because if I get up in the morning, I don't worry about gods. If I look at a butterfly, I don't wonder about how did a god manufacture this butterfly. So gods don't appear in my life. So it's not a worldview for an atheist. So that's also wrong. So we're talking about the political ideology. We're talking about the different aspects of Islam, which are all being controlled by, it's like an octopus sitting in the middle, and all the arms are then influencing the other things. And the octopus is the religious part, where religion, the God, that determines the laws, the rules, the every little ritual. I mean, a Muslim cannot go through life without being told how to go to the toilet, how to wash, how to eat, how to drink, how to sit, how to sleep, how to everything. Sorry,
Would you say that the Christian Orthodox Church is also a political ideology?
No, there's no. Okay, not that I know of. They don't have all these prescribed rituals.
Well, no, but the Christian Orthodox Church was the imperial ideology, the state religion of first the Roman Empire and then the Russian Empire. So it was part of it was intrinsically political.
Yes,
so,
but it did not base its constitution on gods.
Well, the theory was that the ruler, the Caesar, got his authority from God. So he was God's representative on earth. Yes. So it's exactly the same. It's the same as a caliph. That is what the caliph is based on. That's the caliph model. Well, is the late antique Shahs and Caesars.
There's one difference, and that is the God in Islam is bypassing his caliph and creating rules and rituals for the people himself or herself.
In what capacity? Do you mean for the Hadith?
Well, it's not the caliph that says you need to go to the toilet with your left foot first.
Well, that's Sunnah. That's the example of the Prophet.
Well, so this is God. This is God speaking through Muhammad.
But Paul says, "Do as I do, for I follow the example of Christ." So again, you have an exact analog there. It's not as detailed, but you still have an analog. Okay, so I'm seeing political ideology with a guy from authority from God, and also a God-inspired example for how to live your life, or sort of an action to follow. Because remember, Jesus is God, so God has basically influenced Paul, and Paul's saying you have to follow me because I'm following God. So it's exactly the same kind of system, not to mention all the various advice and precepts that God, following Jesus, gave to people, gave to all his followers. Right? And, more interesting, according to Christian understanding, Jesus, taught all his theology and rules and laws to his apostles, and his apostles went out and established churches, so sort of proto-bishops, and each of these bishops would then be succeeded by a bishop, who was succeeded by a bishop, and so on and so forth, down the generations in all these regions, leading ultimately to what is now the Catholic Church. So the understanding within Christian theory, within Catholic theory, within Catholic ideology, is that there is a continuous chain of religious authorities from Jesus till now, and that the practice is authenticated by this chain. Does that sound familiar?
No, that sounds familiar.
It's the same. They're all the same. I don't think you can say Islam is different. I don't think it is. I honestly think that the only thing that makes it seem different is that in literally the last 50 years, there's been, well, even then we've had reverses to it. Over the last century, maybe, or the last 50 years, we've grown up in sort of a post-Christian, hyper-secularized environment, or a de-religionized environment in certain Western European countries and co. And so, in vis-a-vis that, Islam might seem exceptional. But actually, Christianity has lots of the same features. Judaism especially has lots of the same features. So I object to identifying Islam as being a special in this respect. I think this is very common features throughout religions. Does that make sense?
No.
And here's another great... You don't agree?
No.
All right. Why not?
Because the difference is in the Quran and the Bible. They are not...
Really?
The Quran is full of laws and rules for everyday life, which is being taken by the state. So you have things like the Jews have this, do not charge interest, okay? So there's a similarity in the Jews. So this goes into the financial sector. But then what the Quran does further, it has this in other aspects too. Like it tells people how to treat prisoners of war. It goes into the internal, the external, the foreign affairs. It goes into warfare. It goes into...
So does the Bible.
Okay,
the Bible does all of this.
I don't know the Bible sufficiently. I don't see this in the Bible.
But have you not... Come on, Deuteronomy, Leviticus,
yeah, but
Numbers,
they don't have these state laws.
They do. These are explicitly the rules for the establishment of a theocracy. They have all of these, what your army is supposed to do, how you sack a city, how do you divvy up the booty, how are the women treated. Yes, you can take slave women, you can capture women, and then you shave their heads and cut their nails or something, and then they become your wife. It's the same stuff. You have and what did Jesus say in the New Testament? The Old Testament's still valid. Follow the laws. I have not come to abolish the law. You know, I mean, it's... And Christians throughout history would extensively draw upon the Old Testament for in various circumstances and instances. So it's not like it was like this massive mystical, appendage just tacked on to the end of Christianity and just no one ever touched. I mean, people immerse themselves in the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. It's just as important, just as vital. It's the precursor to Christ. So it has the foreshadowings to Christ. So again, you can find all the same kind of stuff in Christianity. Even worse, well, better, I guess, depending on your perspective. What's quite interesting is that within Orthodox Jewish thought, okay, Orthodox connotes the modern Orthodox. Okay, there's a traditional Jewish thought, right? So, for example, Musa bin Maimon. Have you ever heard of Maimonides?
Yeah.
Do you know who he was?
No, but I guess know that it was a tribe.
Oh no! Maimonides was a Jewish scholar. They're probably one of the greatest. No. One of the greatest, is not the greatest Jewish scholars in history. A polymath. He was, a doctor and a lawyer and a theologian and a philosopher. Okay, he was this, one of these medieval polymaths, and his legal works, like sort of the Jewish equivalent of Sharia, right? His halakha works are still used today. They are still you can still find these works in synagogues today, according to my Jewish professor. I had to take his authority on that because I've never been inside a synagogue. Anyway, Maimonides said something very interesting, and this actually seems to be a common trend. Let me just find this. There we go. Okay, so Musa bin Mamun said, he lived in the Middle Ages. He lived 1135 to 1204. He lived in Egypt. He fled from Muslim persecution in Spain and ended up in Egypt, where he worked for the government. Anyway, he says this: the two Talmuds clarify what is forbidden and what is permitted in accordance with traditions transmitted by the sages in unbroken succession from the oral law received by Moses at Sinai.
Yes.
Right?
Okay,
so Moses receives the laws from God, and then that's transmitted orally from the Moses to Aaron, and Aaron to the elders of the Aaron.
Yeah,
so Jewish.
This I know.
All right, so it's exactly the same. Hey?
No, but these are but now you're mixing what I would call the Sunnah with the, what is it called, the Mishraf or something like this.
Well, no. See, this is the thing, is that within Judaism, it's as though the Sunnah and the Quran are the same thing. Because the ultimate source for all their law is God on Sinai, in the theory, right? Or, or sometimes not just God, or sometimes early great sages as well. But it's exactly the same with Islam. It's a very similar system. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't see any reason to distinguish Islam vis-a-vis the other religions. They're all very similar. They're all highly political throughout their history. They could all equally be called political ideologies. The only distinction is lots of Jews no longer follow Judaism, and Christianity in the West has become highly depoliticized and more about theology in the last century. Okay. That's that. With those two caveats, I would accept that Islam is not as similar to the others as they used to be. Okay, sure. Islam hasn't gone through a similar process. Well, I mean, there was a massive secularization of the Muslim world, but that was reversed in the 70s and the 80s with Wahhabism and American and British support. So what I need to do,
I need to go and collect all the sentences which I think pertain to a state or nation or government or anything like that, make a collection, and then go and do the same thing in the Old Testament and see how they compare.
That would be an interesting
maybe exercise. This is true, that I just have this in my mind, that I have this impression, because I don't, well, I mean, I've read the Bible a couple of times, maybe even 3 times, but it could be that I missed those parts, and I have been more attentive now to the Quran, so that they stuck out more than they did in the Bible. So this is possible. I will just have to go and do the work. This is why I wanted to talk about this and see why is it that we have so much political Islam, whether this is really based on the Quran or not, because the way that I see it, it is based in the Quran, and I see a lot of like the whole inheritance and all that is so detailed and so, I mean, it's wrong, but it is detailed, and this is why I get the impression that there's a lot more regarding a nation, regarding the governance of a country and a nation, than there is in the Bibles.
Okay, but there's also another caveat, though, is that you use the term political in a way that I don't think is normally used. So you describe a social system as a political system, whereas yes. I still think that it equally are applicable in terms of what we've discussed previously with Judaism and the Bible and Christianity and the empires and whatever being state religion. But I would disambiguate the two, because I think that politics is the government, is the overarching authority, and then social is the day-to-day life, and those are not the same thing. So Judaism.
Okay, sorry. Then all right. Then the word social is different.
So I would say that Islam is a social religion, a social yes. system, right? That's yes. It's demonstrable. And the great analog to that is Judaism, right? And Judaism now is, well, I mean, not now, but like became throughout history not a political system, but merely or restricted to a social system, because they were politically disenfranchised, right? So they ended up being, even though they were within a state, like a Christian state, a Muslim state, they still had their social system, and all the same kinds of women had to be veiled, and they had all these financial and dietary rules and laws, and inheritance law. They had all the same kind of stuff, all the same apparatus, like very, very similar to the Sharia, right? This is called the halakha. This is the sort of the, I don't know, the Jewish or the Hebrew term, whatever. And so it was a social system stripped of the political theory which used to accomplish it, as you might see in the Old Testament, where you do have political theory of this theocracy and the judges and that kind of stuff. Whereas Islam still retains that political theory, and very vibrantly, and it's being used today, and people are trying to implement it with something like ISIS, for example, and all the various militant Muslim movements around the world who draw upon this.
Does it include education, military, fire brigades, and things like that?
I don't know about fire brigades. Military. Okay. See, another problem is that as you go through history, Islamic political thought and political reality changed. So it's hard to generalize from one to the other. So, for example, during the early Umayyad era, the idea was, and this is kind of the idea expressed in a lot of Hadith, is that the military is all these pious volunteers who volunteer to go and fight the jihad and expand the polity, expand the ummah. That was the idea, right? Whereas subsequently you had the development of state military and state armies, professional armies, and so this phenomenon basically disappeared, and you left the military to the military, to the state. So it's hard to I find it difficult to generalize too much from one to the other or across time and space when you have these transformation and these evolutionary stages. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. for me, okay, I just need to do this. It's just interesting for me how much is really political, and political, I agree, I include social and emergency service. In other words, kindergarten, schools, education, things like that. That for me is part
and law as well.
The what?
So I said law as well. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
So when I say social, we're talking broadly, because when I say Islamic law, Islamic law is actually law and social custom, social etiquette, how you go to the toilet. I mean, it's a lot broader than merely like, the sort of the idea of law that is common in, say, I don't know, Occidental countries, Western countries.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, but it's the same. Judaism is exactly the same. So you've got this socio-legal system, which is the Sharia and also the Halakha, right? Which is, I don't think that really has a proper analog in Christianity, right? That there's no really good analog to that. So social, legal, political.
That they have this Sharia, that the goal is to implement it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with Judaism. The goal is to implement correctly the halakha. I guess just we're lucky that Jews are a minority, and of that minority, only a minority at the moment seem to want to actually implement it. So
Does the Bible say that this is a worldwide structure for everybody? The way that Islam does?
Don't know. But even then, I think that the Quran has, I think, a pretty local focus. It's got a pretty Arabian focus.
Yeah, but
so I don't even know if you can.
Claims. Not reality.
Do you mean the claims being made about it or by it?
By it.
What claim would you say exemplifies global domination aspirations?
The sentences in the Quran which say that these are the words for everybody in all times.
Could you give me an example just to refresh my mind? I'm afraid I'm not a hafiz.
That's what it says in the Quran. We have revealed to you for all mankind, for all times, what you should know.
Okay, so you're kind of extrapolating from the logical inferences. So the Quran says this is for all times, and then it says kill this kind of people or that kind of people, and so the inference from that is sort of world domination. Would that be about right?
Where do I get this world domination from? No. Okay. You have a combination of factors. You have the factor that, for example, it says that you need to implement the Quran, the teachings of this God, and then it goes, and then you're right, it goes into the Sunnah, which then says the follow-up from this, the follow-up action from the Quran is then to install Sharia, because the Quran does not mention Sharia. It just says the laws or the rules or what has been decreed by us, and this is what it says. So what has been decreed by us is for everybody and always, and it is supposed to be valid for every single person. And then from there you then go what you call the inference, that then goes into the implementation phase, where you go and install Sharia. But the actual source for this is in the Quran.
Sorry, I got distracted by a stupid comment. Did you cite a specific Quranic verse, or is this sort of just a general implications?
I'm paraphrasing.
Paraphrasing, okay.
Because I know what's in the Quran, but I never know where it is. I can go and look it up now and find all the things, but I'm 100% sure that it says that this is for everybody at all times. That this is not just for the Arabs, that it's not just valid for a certain era.
I don't remember now. Well, I'm sure it can be inferred there, but I think it's really the Sunnah where this is most strongly spelled out.
And then, the Sunnah is then the implementation, which says, okay, we need to go over the Sharia, blah 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 blah, which the Quran does not say.
It's kind of funny. You might say that Islam combines key aspects of Judaism and Christianity. It combines Christianity is the same as go and convert the world. I mean, that's explicit in the New Testament. Go thee to all nations, or whatever the exact wording is. So it combines that with the sort of the Jewish halakha, this socio-legal obsession with converting the world.
Okay, is this in the Quran or the Sunnah? Where does this thing come from? That's once we have established this, we have peace. The Dar al-Harb and Dar al-Islam.
Although I believe that's from Islamic scholarship. That's from the legal theological writings of later ulama.
The concept of peace, that you only have peace once everybody is united under one God.
Yeah, I think that's probably more explicitly spelled out in subsequent legal discourses.
Because I don't know where that comes from.
I mean, these doctrines of Dar al-Harb, these are legal doctrines developed by the ulama. So, yeah, that's probably from the same source.
Okay. All right, then. Let me just quickly go through my news. And then open it up and see what other people have to say to this.
Yeah, we've already got someone who wants to call in. So I'll bring them in now, but you.
No, let me quickly do this. Just give me 10 minutes.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Because otherwise I get tired, because I'm more interested in what people have to say. I just want to get through this because I spent time on this and I don't want to waste, the whole news section. Because what is incredibly interesting is that Christians, after Noah and all this, that they brought out a new movie, which is Exodus, and this movie has been banned in Middle Eastern countries because it's full of factual errors. They say if you make a movie, it needs to be accurate. So I don't know what they consider James Bond or Robin Hood or Sherlock Holmes or that. I mean, they're so childish. But because it's a movie, all right. It handles, I don't know. It handles a topic which is mentioned in the Bible and in the Quran, and then they expect if it's somewhere in the Quran, because James Bond is not in the Quran, so I suppose it doesn't have to be accurate. But because it's Exodus, Moses is mentioned in the Quran, it needs to be accurate, even though it's just a movie. So they banned it. So people in the Middle East are not allowed to watch this movie because they can get sidetracked. They can get the wrong idea of who Moses was. They can get, I mean, really, people are treated like children. Absolutely amazing. Somebody told me that, okay, this is quite cryptic, all right? Imran Ibn Mansur, the Dawa man, the guy that talks to little girls in the street and tells them that they're dressed wrong. I don't know why. He says that I have a new YouTube channel since my old one got shot down. So I don't know what happened there. Why his channel got shut down. I have no idea what happened there. Maybe his sperm was a little bit too much, or I don't know what it was, why it got shut down. I think it's quite funny what happens there, what went on there. So if anybody has any news on that one and knows some background, let us know. I'd like to find out why a Muslim would lose their channel, for what reason. I mean, I would be very interested to find out why that would happen. And then we have the usual killing, kidnapping, enslaving, and blah, 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 by Muslims in different countries, and this continues, all right? And I will continue to ignore it here, because I don't see it as representing Islam, even though it is caused by Islam, but I don't see it as the Islam, and I don't think we need to, I don't know, explain anything about this. If anybody wants to know why Daesh are doing this, they just need to look at the Sunnah. They're just following exactly what Muhammad did, and that's it. So end of story. There's no need to go.
I think there's a bit more to it, but you can go and watch the lecture I gave on the subject, and I go into all the factors.
Well, of course, there's more to it. Of course. Well, then we come back to the political Islam again. Of what it is. Do you know that they have social services? They have like health insurance and things like that, which I find quite astonishing.
Who, Daesh?
Yeah.
Wow, how advanced! I'm glad the state is starting to take on some of the responsibilities of the state, as well as divvying out sex slaves. I'm glad they've got some priorities. Yes, healthcare, soup kitchens, and Yazidi sex slaves. Oh, great! You know, I guess that's all the boxes ticked for a fucking functioning state. All right, guys. Next, who's next? Anyway, sorry.
But here's a story from the Daesh cutthroats, which I find quite funny. If you can find Daesh cutthroats funny. Now, we all know that Muslims were not really at the leading edge of technological developments, and they have to buy their phones and cars and TVs, I think even bicycles from the Kafirs. But they love the products, okay? They love their little phones and things like that. Now, the Daesh idiots, no, the Daesh cutthroat idiots, but they also love the Kafir-run social networks, but they can't handle them. So a guy they recruited from New Zealand was too stupid to realize he was giving away his precise secret location with every tweet he sent, because he marked them as geotagged. So every time he sent out a tweet, it contained the information of his geographical location. So everybody knew where the secret location was, where he was tweeting from. It's so funny. I mean, there's no information whether he and his buddy cutthroats are still alive, or if somebody found this information and said, interesting, we just need to punch in the coordinates into our next cruise missile and it will land on top of him. So this is quite funny. Now, New Year. We've just had the New Year, and the funny thing is that places like Dubai and Abu Dhabi, for example, they celebrate non-Islamic holidays, and places like Qatar, for example, does not, because they are non-Islamic holidays, all right? Now, Dubai's fireworks were viewed by more people than ever before, because they heard about last year when they went into the Guinness Book of Records for the most elaborate, lavish fireworks ever in the history of mankind. But they didn't make the record effort they had this year. They tried to do something else, and they get the record for the largest LED illuminated facade. So I think that's quite good. And I mean, I always said that Dubai was a facade, so there you go. Now in Emirates,
I thought you needed a. I thought you needed a.
For what?
For your joke. It was very punny.
Oh, okay, yeah. But,
just keep going. Just keep going.
This is my personal evaluation. Now, one thing is amazing though, because Emirates, the airline of Dubai, because I don't know if you know that you have like Emirates in Dubai, and then just a couple of k's south you have Abu Dhabi, which has Etihad, which has its own airline. and the own state airline, and then you have Qatar Airways from Qatar with its own airline, and you have Oman. So every little thing there has its own airline, and they're all bloody successful. I mean, Etihad. I said last time, I mentioned this last time. They sold the suites. I mean, they go at $20,000 a flight, all right, just so that you can have your own three-room apartment in the Airbus 380, where you have a living room, you have a lounge, and you have the bathroom, you have the bedroom, you have the lounge, or is that already the 3 rooms? I don't remember. Anyway, so you have your own little suite, and it costs you $20,000 a flight. So and they've sold them. So this is quite amazing. So anyway, the airport in Dubai is going to be the busiest in the world, and I remember it was still, like, I mean, Emirates was an exotic company when I first flew with them, and this is like 15 years ago. They were a startup, and they were delivering fantastic service, fantastic prices, and I remember I flew in first, I think, and this was really, really impressive if I compared it to, for example, even to Singapore Airlines, which at that stage was top of the rank. And now Dubai, I mean, I still had to walk. I had to get out of the plane and walk to the terminal, and today it's the busiest airport in the world. So this is quite amazing what has happened in the last 15 years. And I'm around to watch this, to witness this. So it's brilliant. A man was arrested for tearing apart a book. Well, the Quran, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be mentioning it here. And then it was burning this. And he was arrested for doing this, for tearing apart a book and burning it, and he got arrested. This was not in Pakistan, but this was in the UK. In Great Britain. Are they fucking mad? I mean, there is no law, there is no rule, there is nothing that would justify this. How can they arrest somebody for simply burning a book? It's unbelievable what Muslims are getting away with. I mean, it's a small group, and they are like really causing so much of a stir. It's absolutely amazing. And I mean, you have the Racial and Religious Hatred Act, okay, which lists like offences of stirring up hatred against persons on religious grounds. That is what they're using here to arrest this guy. And then it specifies that you need to distribute or display something or any kind of material that is threatening or intended to stir up religious hate. I mean, how is destroying a book threatening? I mean, none of this is the case when you look at what he's done. And on top of everything else, you did not destroy a Quran, but you destroyed a translation, the approximate meaning of the Quran, which is not a Quran. It's not even seen as a Quran as such by Muslims. It's pathetic what ideologies and religions get away with in the 21st century. And I don't quite understand, because there's this lies company in Germany, and they are distributing Qurans or approximate meanings of the Quran. And yet they're advertising everywhere that we are distributing the Quran, and then all you get is an approximate meaning. So I don't quite know how that works and how Muslims justify this, that they are distributing Qurans which are not in Arabic. Now in Sweden, they're showing the right way to respond to what they call Islamophobia. I still don't know what this word actually... I think I know what it's supposed to mean, but I think the word is so stupid that I don't know, I refuse to use it. So we have Islamist extremism, all right? We all know that, and it's also a growing concern in Sweden. It's estimated that the country has one of the highest rates of ISIS recruits per capita in Europe. And in November, a guy, I mean, they're slowly coming back now because they realize this is stupid. And then the guy came back and he says, well, he was recruited by people in Sweden where they have hundreds of sleepers. And they're all awaiting orders. So what he is claiming is that if somebody wants to really cause chaos in Sweden, all they have to do is activate all the sleepers who are living in Sweden and who are undetected. Or maybe they are being monitored and nobody knows about it. But he claims that there's hundreds of sleepers which can be activated at any time. But Sweden, the government has refused to exploit the fears of extremism for political gain. I think that's the right way to do it, to not go and cater for this. And now, this is amazing. Do you know Harper Collins from university, from the books?
Yes, I do. I'm aware of that publisher.
That did not pick up on any microphone. I saw your lips move.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now yes.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm aware of the publisher HarperCollins.
I don't know why you have a lag. Like, for example, your lips are still moving even when you finish talking, so there's a disconnect between...
Maybe it's the fact that I have video on. I'll try no video. Maybe that'll be...
Yeah, well, then obviously, because then you can't see the lips moving when the sound is going. No, it's just
okay. So you're not saying that there's an audio delay. You're saying that it's only an video delay. Is that correct?
Which is delayed. The video is delayed because you finish speaking, but your lips are still moving.
Okay. So there's no. Okay. So the audio is fine. Okay, cool. What were you going to say? HarperCollins, yeah.
Is a publishing giant, right? I mean, everybody knows, everybody who reads books or has textbooks at school or at varsity, everybody knows HarperCollins. And they have been selling an atlas, and this was developed specifically for schools in the Middle East. Now, it trumpets this as, for students, delivering an in-depth coverage of the region and its issues. So they have a map, an atlas of the Middle East, which provides an in-depth coverage of the region and its issues, helping kids understand the relationship between the social and physical environment, the region's challenges, and its socio-economic development. But here's the problem. You have Syria, Jordan, Gaza, you even have the West Bank. But there's no Israel. Israel is missing from this map. They didn't forget about it. They elected not to put Israel on this map because it would have been unacceptable to include Israel in atlases intended for the Middle East. So they deleted Israel to satisfy local preferences. How religions poison everything. I mean, can you handle the fact that somebody will just go and cater for the whims of people and just suppress reality and say, Israel, yeah, I heard about Israel, but we don't really know where it is. Anyway, we're not going to include it in our atlas, so if we don't include it, we don't have to worry about it, and then we don't need to answer any questions about it. There you go. End of story and case closed. So that's the end of the news for me today.
All right.
Then let me put the link into the box. So if somebody wants to join in and add something on political Islam or anything, then just come and join it. There it is. Drinks, you are welcome to join us. So once again, the reminder, Gin and Tonic Show. We talk about Islam, we are atheists, and it's live every Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, depending on where you are. And it's recorded and then transmitted on the YouTube channel. If you want to join, go to Facebook or YouTube or something and click on the link. And then we don't have any censorship. We don't restrict anything. What happens is you join us here. You can say whatever you want to. If you spam or scam or do anything like that, if you just want to make fun, you're simply kicked out. Otherwise, you're free to say whatever you want to. We don't censor people. Okay, let me just catch up on the thingamajig, on the different comments, because I haven't had time now, because I was always trying to get this, because I'm fascinated by the political aspect of Islam. I'm fascinated how countries can put into a constitution that the government is run by God and that all the government officials have to abide by the rules of this God. And that is something that I find totally absolutely fascinating. So, Mr. Abu.
Assalamu
Assalamualaikum.
I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has like punished me with this year's flu, so I don't know if you can hear what I'm saying. My voice is a little bit.
But the infidels have the vaccine for that.
Yeah, I think isn't there an hadith that is talking like something like there is no, not flu because they couldn't possibly know about that, but something like there is no real marad. There's only like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like making people sick.
Well, it says that for every ailment there is a cure. So maybe you forgot to dip the second wing of the fly into your drink.
Yeah, but I think there is a hadith that is talking about like someone got sick or something, and then it said that it's not really like something that contradicted is like the microbes that is making us sick, but it's like Allah is making us. I don't know. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember it. No. But I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I mean, it sounds very much like it could be. Yes.
I think I was hafid that hadith, but I forgot it. Too bad.
Is this the hadith where it says that there is no illness or something?
Yeah, something like that.
I remember reading this. I wrote about it at one point, but you know what? Whilst you go and ask whatever questions you're going to ask, I'll just quickly look it up and find it for you. How about that?
Thank you
I
very
thought
much.
you were going to chat and I could get coffee.
All right, so welcome to the show. We've got 3 guests currently. Abu Muhammad, you came in first, so what have you got for us?
Well, I don't know. Maybe I would like to say some things that we talked about last time, but I don't know if you have time for that. It's up to you.
Yeah, sure.
We have 1 hour.
Yeah, so plenty of time.
Let the other guys in first, so I guess that's
Oh, okay, sure. Arash, welcome again. What do you want to chat about?
Thanks, guys. I'll just wait right now, and I'll just maybe put in some input later.
All right, we've got lots of people who will be able to talk in the future. All right, is it Par?
Yes,
No.
Par.
Yes.
Yeah.
My pronunciation's not very good. I apologize.
Yeah, no problem.
How's it going?
Yeah, I'm actually ill as well. I did decide to party with the flu on New Year's, and it kicked my ass the morning after. So I'm still kind of woozy. But funny that you mentioned Sweden. You probably haven't heard of this, but our local Islamophobic collection of nut jobs in the Swedish Democrats a couple of months ago managed to make it a government crisis in this country.
Fantastic. How does that work?
Yeah, it worked this way. Yeah, you know, the government, they make this they make a budget that needs to get voted through in the parliament. And this little collection, they were the deciding factor between the majority voting yes and the majority voting no. And they decided to vote against it until they got to have a say about the immigration policy in this country. So if that happens, it is the praxis to announce a re-election. Fortunately, the government were able to circumvent it, so the crisis is over, but it's still telling that people will vote for a party that will actually, and they will go vote completely against what they have promised, just in order to kind of chokehold the government and make them do what they want. It was kind of interesting. Yeah, but yeah, it was actually kind of scary. And since I mean, it's I think it's votes for the Swedish Democrats, and so everyone knows someone who voted for them, and most people weren't that mad that they lied. Most of the people who voted for them. So that was kind of scary, actually. But whatever, it's done and dusted. But I had a question for both of you, actually. I just went through my old course books in history. I just tried to refresh my memory once every couple of months. And someone struck me when I read about the history of the Middle East, and I don't know if, especially both of you, if you read about the history of the Middle East, if you read about the Arabic language, it seems that when the empire or caliphate, when it spread to the west, Arabic became the dominant language, but not when it spread to the east.
That is correct.
And the religion. Why is that? Not one of my books had an explanation for that, and I thought it was kind of interesting.
I read about this a long time ago, and so my answer is very, very sketchy and very provisional, I'm afraid. I'm going half off memory and half off speculation.
Yeah.
Relative to what I know about the history, certainly. But basically, in the east, in Iran and Khorasan and these regions, modern-day Turkmenistan, the Arab conquests actually saw the rise of Persian.
Yeah.
And the spread of Persian as the lingua franca in that region, extinguishing all the other prior Iranian languages of the area. So there was actually the rise of a Persian lingua franca. I'm not 100% sure why that happened, although it's worth noting that the Arabs who settled in Iran, in eastern Iran and Khorasan, I think were sparse and became heavily Persianized, culturally Persianized. So it may well be that they actually adopted Persian and thus spread Persian with them and with their conquests and with their influence in the region.
But but that's kind of the opposite as opposed to what happened to the West, where the conquerors became the lingua franca.
In the Berbers and stuff? Do you mean?
No, I think in North Africa, and I mean in the Levant.
Well, the Levant. Okay, Patricia kind of talked about this. And basically, there was a lack of you might say nationalism.
Yeah.
In the Levant. They didn't have a proper identity there. So it was very easy for their identity to erode and to become Arabicized. Whereas in Egypt, that process took centuries and centuries and centuries. Because Egypt was you might say almost like a nation, a community. They were ethnically homogeneous, religiously homogeneous, linguistically homogeneous. So there was, these Coptic Christian peasants, and so they actually rebelled very fiercely and very frequently, and took many centuries to actually become Arabicized to the point where only 10% remain as identifying as Coptic and Christian in present day.
Okay. Yeah.
So a big part of the difference is the extant culture and sort of the cultural infrastructure, the cultural narratives and identities in each region respectively, depending on how strong that was. So the Persians, even though they have adopted Arabic, are still Persian. They still identify as Persian, they still have their history and their culture, they still have their language. Persian revived and took over. So now Iranians speak Persian and not Arabic, right? Because they had this national cohesion or common history, enough of a common identity to stay together, whereas the Berbers did not, for example. So they all now, most of them would now identify as Arabs and speak Arabic in Northern Africa.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it totally does. Totally does.
Can I just actually complete that a little bit, because this kind of goes back to the history of the Sasanians. There's something called the idea of Iran Shah. Has anyone ever heard of this?
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
So when you look at the Sasanians, they focused mostly on the eastern side of the empire because of the, Rome was pretty much taking over the western, invading over and over again, and then they had to take it back. So they couldn't really put too much influence culturally on that as much as they could on the east, like places like Samarkand and Bukhara and cities like that. And so this idea of an Iran Shah was established for pretty much anyone who spoke a Iranic or Persian, you could say, language. And even like 400 years after the fall of the Sasanians, you see like Christians dying in Rome, like to go to, what is it when they go and visit holy places?
Pilgrimage.
Pilgrimage. And they buried themselves, and on the tombstone says, I am, something something Christian, and I am from the land of Iran Shah, from the village of so-and-so, from the province of so-and-so. So this idea of Iran Shah is present there, and it literally means area of the Iranians, because that's what literally Iran Shah means. And so the reason that I would say that the language didn't change is because there was so much Persian influence before the Arabic invasion, and you have to realize that the Arabic invasion didn't just take all that land all at once. So the
Yeah, absolutely.
So the Muslimization took time. A lot more influence was put into the Levant than, for example, and you have to look at the geography. It's much harder to put your influence across that region, like Afghanistan and the mountainous regions, than compared to places like Syria and Lebanon.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually. It was interesting that the conquest of Mesopotamia and the Levant was very swift. There wasn't really anything to protect them from the south, geographically speaking. But the conquest, especially from people coming from arid or desert regions, whereas the conquest of the Iranian plateau took, I think, 40 years or something, because it was. It was geographic. It was mountainous, very mountainous region. They had to go up against all these mountain strongholds and perhaps a far more cohesive identity, which survives until today. Still hasn't been Arabicized, even though they ended up adopting the religion. So it's quite interesting. So yeah, I think you're right. I think this Iran Shahid and these kinds of national self-construction are the important infrastructure that allowed the survival of, say, this group vis-a-vis the Berbers.
But how is it then in? I'm thinking really far to the east, in like India and Indonesia and the Muslim parts of China and so on. They are not Arabicized either, right?
Yes, and see, the influence there is different because Islam came initially as a trading force.
Yeah.
So just as Hinduism had spread through, and then Buddhism had spread through, so too did Islam spread through, via these same ancient trade routes. And of course, if you're trading with if you're a local king and you're trading with these merchants, converting to their religion puts you more on a footing with them, gives you more of a brotherhood with them. It helps your trade.
Yeah.
So this is sort of context for them to initially convert. It's the same with European colonialism. Often the local elites would convert either to Christianity or would immerse themselves within European culture and wear European suits. And
it's the same thing that happened in the Nordic countries when we became Christian, actually. Yeah, that's about the same thing. At least I think in Denmark, where the local kings, they adopted Christianity in order to ease the trade and cultural integration into Europe. And to get a better administration for the state. They kind of got that for free with the church.
Yeah, is that like with the church infrastructure and the bishops and that kind of system?
Exactly, and the writing, just that.
Latin.
Yeah, we had runes, but they are really bad to write with, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah. So yeah.
And then subsequently, there were holy wars, weren't there, to convert all of Scandinavia to Christianity?
Never. We never.
No?
No, we never had any crusade. Actually, we Swedes did a crusade, or we.
Was that into the Baltic? What am I thinking of?
I think you're thinking of the Baltic. We never
Magnus
had any.
Eriksson made a crusade against Novgorod.
Exactly.
Ah, okay. Oh, did that result in a republic?
Oh, now I don't remember.
Republic.
That is
okay. Sorry, I've diverted us. I apologize.
Yeah, that's okay. It's awesome to discuss history.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, Klingschor. I don't know if you remember that a couple of months ago I just asked for some tips when I was going to write a lesson plan on religion for my students.
Yes, I do recall.
Yeah.
Did I get back to you sufficiently, or did I forget?
Yeah, absolutely. Because
good.
one of the things that you said was that it was good to emphasize the similarities between the Abrahamic religions. And we actually, in the class, it was kind of cool, we did a Venn diagram between all the Abrahamic religions, pointing out the differences and the similarities. And I think it was a bit of an eye-opener, because...
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, brilliant!
Because, I mean, for Swedish students in this is kind of rural Sweden where I work, both Islam and Judaism is kind of exotic for them, I think. So yeah, and I mean, since Sweden is so secularized, for some students even Christianity is. So to get close to it in that kind of way, it was kind of fun, actually.
Brilliant. Well, okay. Was it a successful class? Did it?
Yeah, it was.
Oh, that's brilliant. I'm really glad to hear that.
Yeah, I'd say it was. Actually, this was kind of fun. We just had, because there's a refugee camp in that very town, and we have a lot of students from Syria at the moment, and we had two students that just had started, because I don't know how it is in other countries, but here all refugees, no matter whether they have been granted asylum or not, have the right to an education, and so they just go into class way before they know the language or anything, and I actually had them to look at some pages of the Quran and read it to all the students in class, and it was kind of a nice way to get them into the classroom. It was kind of nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I managed to have a tiny impact somewhere in the world.
Yeah, you have a lot of impact, because I haven't read my religious studies. It was like, I think 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember that much of it anymore. And I mean, we learned about all religions and how to teach the religions and all this kind of stuff. And I mean, you remember just a little part of it. So actually, your channel, I have to say, is a really good memory refresher for me a lot of the times.
Oh, that's so nice. Oh, stop it. Shucks, as they say. That's really nice to hear. I'm glad I could be of some help.
Yeah.
That's really heartening.
Klingschor.
Yeah, so Sheikh al-Islam. Nur ad-Din, light of the religion, of course.
Hafidahullah.
Yeah, what's the Shiite one called, where you the person who you emulate, who's the source of taqlid? What are that? What's that called? God damn it! What are the Ayatollahs?
The Ayatollah.
Arash. Yes, but the Ayatollahs who you're meant to emulate. Every Shiite is supposed to pick an Ayatollah who they emulate, whose teachings they follow.
You mean out of the 12 imams? Or
is it Murjia or something?
oh, you mean
God
like
damn. Yes. There we go. That's I'll claim that title. It sounds great. You know what? Let's not stop at the small fry. I'm the Mahdi, guys. Surprise. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Yep. Yeah, that's cool.
So what else? What else is there? Sorry, I've gone off into a megalomaniac spree. So where were we?
You're so humble so much of the time. It's kind of nice to see us a megalomaniac bastard. But I actually have to leave quite soon. But I would just wanted to ask you one more question before I go.
Yeah, by all means.
It's this that you have a video that say why you criticize Islam.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think that you have said several times that you criticize all religions, but your interest is with Islam. But you have never said why is your interest with that religion in particular.
Oh, it just kind of happened by accident, honestly. It just like as I said in the video, I started arguing with Muslims, and in order to win the arguments, I had to do research.
Yeah. And
I had to out-research them, right? Yeah. And so, my philosophy is, not my philosophy, but sort of a general idea I have in my head is, it's okay to be wrong, because the thing to do is to always change until you're right, so then you're right. Yeah. Right? So rather than holding on dogmatically to an idea, I'm totally happy to. And so I was researching and changing my views and trying to make my views more sophisticated and more well-founded. And eventually, I just ended up specializing in the topic because it started off as I had a deficiency of knowledge on the subject because it wasn't anything indigenous to my environment. Do you know what I mean? So it was something kind of foreign, in fact, if you will. So I had to learn about it in order to be able to talk about it. And then I just sort of spiraled out of control and just became the thing that I know the most about. Or I don't even know if that's actually true. There's other things that I'm interested in, but I don't talk about them here. But you know, but yeah. So it's
But I think isn't there something else that's interesting about it since you actually you've put it in the focus of your education and things like that.
Oh, I find history and historical phenomena, social history, all that kind of stuff, really fascinating. I've always been obsessed with history. My focus used to be, I can't account for it. It's just ever since I was a small child, I always used to play with ancient Egypt Lego. You know, it was, it was just my obsession was history. And it used to, it's kind of funny actually. It's sort of an analogy with Tom Holland. My obsession was actually dinosaurs originally.
Yeah.
And then I transitioned into history, and initially it was like ancient Egypt, ancient Mesopotamia, ancient India, and then when I began to argue over this religious stuff, I just went forward a couple of thousand years in the same regions. And so, I just, it was just kind of this ad hoc, gradual process sparked from polemical necessity and general interest in history.
Okay.
Does that make any kind of sense?
Yeah, it actually does it does makes a lot of sense because when I was in my history studies, and you discussed with people, that's actually kind of common, I think, and it's actually exactly the same for me that I started out with. Almost all boys have an interest in dinosaurs when they are young for some reason, but then some drops that and goes into computer games or football, and some people just stay with that.
I stayed. I didn't really. It wasn't really that sporty, and I never played video games. So.
Yeah. But I did see that someone posted something from the Total War series on your Facebook wall. I thought that was kind of funny.
Although, all right, there's one exception. There is one. Okay, this is totally a segue now. But there is one sort of video game that I do play obsessively, and that's Pokemon. So you've got me, guys. I'm a Pokemon master.
That is hilarious. Okay, okay, okay. I've gotta go now. But thank you so much for this little chat.
No worries. No, thank you. Thanks for contributing.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. Bye bye.
You too. Ciao. We've been joined by Ask an Atheist. Welcome to the show. Are you there? Are you with us, Ask an Atheist? Your microphone is currently muted.
Oh, that's better.
Hey, you're back.
There you go.
Yes, I'm with you.
How's it going? Welcome to the show.
Sorry, technical issues, but I think they're solved.
No worries, it's fine. How's it going? What do you have to chat about?
I just posted a link to an article that I just came across, claiming that the Islamic State actually has weapons of mass destruction now. Oh, you don't want to go then?
Oh, sorry. My computer was lagging for a second, so my microphone wasn't turning on. That's fantastic. I mean, that's a cherry on top to this lovely. God. Is there any?
I have a separate question regarding Islam and what your thoughts are.
Sure.
In the light of the Islamic State and its support and its financial support and everything that it's doing in order to be successful, in the light of all the I hate to say non-extreme or non-militant Muslims, because I think there's only one Islam, and that is militant Islam. There's no other one. But my point is that there's a lot of Muslims in Europe, and there's a lot of Muslims in America, in North America, etc. If, hypothetically, the Islamic State were to expand into Europe and into North America, do you think that the moderate Muslim populations of these regions and countries will automatically just melt into the Islamic State way of life?
No.
I very much doubt it. Most Muslims I know personally are westernized. They drink. They wear, Western clothes. I mean, this is all extremely taboo. And I imagine even Muslims who identify as religious here in, say, Australia or around in the Western world, still indulge in many things that ISIS would consider completely off the pale. So I doubt it. I mean, even now, ISIS is almost entirely killing other Muslims. So I imagine that will just continue. Yes, but in terms of numbers, overwhelmingly they've killed Muslims. They do target Christians and they target Yazidis, but these are small minorities in these countries. The overwhelming majority of the people who are being killed and attacked are other Muslims.
But of course,
so I imagine that will just continue. I don't imagine that pattern.
No, I do understand that, but while they're in the region of the Islamic State and sort of setting up shop, of course they're killing other Muslims, but they're going to try and expand. And my hypothetical was that they've expanded to Europe and they've expanded to North America. They've taken it over. It's a done deal. What do the local Muslims do?
I have no idea. It would depend from person to person.
Do they become informants? Are they a fifth column, basically?
I doubt it. As I just said, I think most of them are.
Do they turn against the non-Muslim society in conformance with Sharia law?
I don't know.
I don't understand that question.
How could you possibly? It's like would you rather have this completely unknowable hypothetical or this completely? I have no idea. I don't know. Is there sufficient data to even be able to hazard even the most? All I can go off is my personal experience in this instance. Otherwise, I don't know what data to go to.
Oh, well, you can also look at reality. Look at what is happening. Look at Saudi Arabia. Look at Qatar. Look at the nations which are currently, and UAE, for example, they are actively fighting against Daesh.
Yeah, so I imagine that would be common throughout. All right, what are your thoughts? What's your suspicion then?
I wouldn't say that the Saudis and whatnot are fighting actively against the Islamic State in that fashion.
Okay, but ask an atheist. What do you suppose? I mean, honestly, I think this is just a wild hypothetical. I don't know how I could even formulate a really proper answer. So I'm sorry if that's unsatisfactory, but that's all I got.
I think it's too hypothetical.
Maybe my hypothetical was just too out there.
Perhaps. Yeah. Did you have any other questions or queries or thoughts?
I did, but it slipped my mind.
Okay. Well, back to you, Abu Mulhid. Why don't you bring up now what you wanted to talk about? Now that we've gone through all the other callers, we can go back to that which you alluded to previously. Hello? Hello?
I think Abu Mulhid's not here for a second.
Yeah, he's gone to the dunny, and it's
getting coffee.
It's very embarrassing. Oh, sorry, he's going to get some coffee. Of course, that's what you always say.
Bad timing on your part, Klingschor.
I'm sorry. I lack the wahi. Okay, I lack the prophetical ability to know these things. Well, whilst we're waiting for him, then.
But actually, can I continue on something you guys were talking about?
Yeah, sure.
I think it all, bringing back what we were talking about last time even, it all comes back to the political nature of Islam and is it really different or not, And I think that in the beginning of the show we were completely forgetting about the fact that, hey, Muhammad was the leader of an empire, a successful leader who died in an old age. And he literally is what Muslims believe is he, through pretty much the Sunnah is how you're supposed to do it. So the Quran and the Sunnah are almost one and the same. We're forgetting about this, and which is completely different. Do we agree on this?
I don't agree.
You're probably going to say Moses, right?
Exactly. Well, Moses, I mean, listen, Muhammad's life was modeled on Moses. Moses is the principal model for the structuring of Muhammad's life in subsequent Muslim literature in the early Abbasid era.
Right.
Of the Umayyad era. So I mean, it's not. I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I think the similarities are in many cases probably, well, in many instances, actually outright deliberate.
Yeah. You can see the same thing, the continuation from Moses to Jesus to Muhammad.
Actually, here's what I think that is different is because, first of all, Moses is a little different. My Jewish professor, he was a history professor. He was an ancient Mesopotamia teacher, history teacher, and how he was pretty much focused on how ancient religions change. and the specific focus was on Judaism. And he said that, Judaism has changed so much throughout. It used to be a polytheistic religion, and it became more monotheistic after the Jewish diaspora from Babylon. Okay, after Cyrus, so more under Xerxes or whatnot.
Yeah. Second Isaiah. Yeah.
And so, pretty much, he's saying that there's a huge, of course, people who really believe in this in the Torah will not follow this, but he's like, there's a large academic community who's pretty much coming to the conclusion that the story of Moses is completely made up. And he's saying that because the first time it comes up to the Babylonian Jews, and when they move back to Jerusalem, they bring up this story, and it mirrors almost exactly what they were doing, which is pretty much going to a promised land from slavery. And there's also other things that shows that there's really no record of Jews being slaves in Egypt, but they did work there because of better job opportunities in Egypt and such. And so he was saying that, and so I don't think we can look at that so easily and say, okay, look at Moses, and so this finishes the.
Well, no, I mean, there's a difference here, because we're not. I mean, first of all, the same thing happened with Muhammad. The story of Muhammad is highly mythical. It's very difficult to really.
A lot less mythical than Moses, because we almost.
No.
I don't know.
Most of the stories of Muhammad's life cannot be authenticated.
We don't even know if Moses is real. But
Muhammad
did a lot of things.
Well, yes, we know Muhammad was a guy. We know a couple of hints at what he did, but that's about it. It's very tiny. Oh yeah, a tiny bit more than yes. So the difference is that Muhammad actually existed and Moses probably did not exist. That's the only difference. Otherwise, in terms of their narrative, I mean, most of Muhammad's life is saliently mythical, saliently fabricated, or unverifiable. But this is irrelevant. It doesn't matter what actually happened. It matters what the religious people think happened. So this is the key point, is that it's irrelevant. All this theory about, is the Quran from God or the Mishnah, or even though, incidentally, the Mishnah is actually held to have come from God in Jewish thought, via Moses, given from God to Moses, and then to Moses through a continuous chain of Jewish authorities to the classical scholars, and then to the present day, to be enshrined within the textual Mishnah, the Talmud. But it's irrelevant. What matters is how people understand these books, these texts, and then how they implement them or go with them.
Wouldn't you agree that Muslims understand themselves being Muslim as, hey, ours is the last best thing? That's a huge part of understanding.
Well, so Christians are exactly the same.
But nowhere in the Bible says, hey, this is the last guy. Whoever else comes after me or before me was null and void. Christians.
Like whoever comes after me.
I mean, right, but do you kind of understand what I'm saying? In towards if you wanna say that the cultural narrative is important, well then they do see themselves as one day. Maybe it's better for the whole world to be Muslim because that is the word of God.
Yeah, but I mean, Christianity is identical. I mean, most religions have that characteristic. I mean, the Bible talks a lot about the false prophets that will come. Many shall come in my name. That kind of thing. I mean, it's
right.
It's the same kind of thing.
Sorry. Also, I'm sorry if I'm talking to him. I actually wrote this down while you guys were talking. I'm very sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
It's because, you were talking about how it's very similar with Christianity and Islam, and I didn't agree with that part because most of the similarities, like the statist ideas, the political structures that are within, you can't even say Christianity. You were saying Catholicism was made after Constantine, and so. From the Quran, we have the beginning, and it's structured from the beginning to be a political empire expanding kind of thing, because that's what Muhammad was doing. I mean, I personally think that.
I don't agree. The Quran is completely incoherent. We don't actually. What the Quran probably represents is a series of texts, and they're completely contradictory.
Yes.
Yeah, some of them say go out and kill, and others say, be peaceful, or defend yourself. I mean, there's a huge variety. That perspective you're articulating is the classical Muslim perspective. That was sorry. Your microphone's currently muted. You muted your microphone, Arash.
No,
sorry, not Arash. Abu Muhid. We can't hear you. Sorry. I confused you two. I apologize. Abu Muhid said, "Can anyone hear me?" And we can't hear you. Your microphone is muted, Abu Muhid.
Yeah, but even when it's unmuted, there's no sound.
We'll try unmuting it. Abu.
He just did. He just had it unmuted and nothing happened.
Did he? I didn't see it change. All right. Well, anyway, whilst he's trying to figure that out, I'll continue. Sorry. God damn it! What was I saying? The classical narrative. Yeah, this perspective is the one that was developed by subsequent Muslim jurists and scholars in order to rationalize the incoherence of the Quran. And so they developed the idea that it's a whole single text with a single coherent message. Abrogation. The peaceful verses are abrogated by the violent ones, and now we have this wonderful universal holy war to conquer the world. That was the classical doctrine. But in that time period, it was interpreted in that way and it was implemented in that way. But then in other time periods, you just haven't had that kind of, warfare. You've had Muslims attacking other Muslims or whatever. So it really varies from time period to time period as to what matters with a religion is not what the texts say, it's how it's understood and implemented. It's all very well to say, in theory, God's word has more implication than whatever inspired word or whatever, but it's irrelevant. What actually matters is how it's understood and how it's practiced and what kind of role that it has in inspiring people and motivating people's actions. Do you get what I mean?
I mean, I wouldn't agree with the fact that religion is completely not. I mean, what is inside the text?
It's not completely relevant. It's not completely relevant, but I think it's largely relevant. How many Christians can you find who stone adulterers? They just ignore their text. How many Christians follow the shellfish laws? They'll cherry pick the gay ones. Why? Why do they? See, that's a great case in point actually, because it shows its culture. It's actually a culture of conservatism and homophobia that motivates Christians to point to the Bible and say, look, Leviticus. I mean, it's just crap. They're cherry picking. They're not fundamentalists at all. So it's actually a great case in point that people don't follow their scripture. They just follow what suits them at any given time or what suits their cultural narrative or their cultural environment.
Well, it's people are better than their gods. This is the old thing.
Right, exactly. I mean, Islamic history is just a massive case in point. For most of Muslim history, the Sharia was not implemented because it doesn't work. So all that was implemented usually was it was partially implemented. Your family law and your financial law and that kind of stuff, and your ritual purity, that was implemented. The criminal law was usually not actually implemented. There was usually parallel secular state apparatus to deal with that kind of stuff. So again, throughout Muslim history, it hasn't actually. I mean, again, homosexuality is a great case in point. Why is it that throughout Muslim history you have resplendent homoerotic poetry? The Quran says homosexuality is fahisha, the Sunnah says kill gay people, and yet, what do we find? We find gay caliphs, or so I should say, this is really being anachronistic. Caliphs who pursued men sexually and had male sexual partners all throughout Muslim history. How do you account for that? Because people don't actually follow the religion. They follow religion as through the lens of their culture. That's the only way I think to understand the data. Sorry, I've talked a lot. What are your thoughts?
I'm just saying people can't touch caliphs. If that was the same case for someone, I think Christians and Muslims have been stoning or killing gays for the longest time. The only reason if there was a gay caliph is because people can't touch the caliph. I'm sure that poets, many poets, homoerotic poetry, gay prostitutes were the highest paid prostitutes in medieval Spain. Spain's another great point. Gambling was widespread. Drinking was widespread. I mean, this is not caliphs. This is everyone. This is high society in general. I mean, the Bachabazi is also a good example.
Yeah, but the point is that this has changed. The point is that the religions are just providing the backdrop for what the people choose to adopt for that specific point in time. And that is why it changes all the time. And this is why there is no such thing as true Islam or the one Islam or the one Christianity or Judaism or Zoroastrian or anything. It's always what people make it to be at the moment. That's why there are so many different versions, and that's why even the Sikhs, the more modern you get, the more versatile the texts become. Because this is the rule that they need to follow. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. I don't think that Islam was ever intended to survive 100, 200, 500 years. It was for that time. I think Muslims are surprised that they still have the same books after 1,000 years.
Or do they? But I mean, I think that's a really great analogy or way to look at it, Stop, is that it's the background that people are interacting with. And so depending on the culture, they'll interact with. So now you've got this situation of foreign policy and international, intrigue and all these sort of political issues. And in response to that, people are drawing upon the Islamic holy war legacy and interacting with their environment, interacting with the political situation, are acting in the way they are. So you get something like ISIS, for example, drawing upon the Hanbali tradition, drawing upon these precedents, but acting in a modern context.
Yeah, but what do you have today? You have fund a satellite. I mean, fund a satellite so Sunnis can do dawah. I mean, this is exactly what we're down to.
Fund a satellite?
Well, have you ever heard of that? Yeah, this is a new movement, yeah. Anyway, so that is the point, that the different times, the different eras have different capabilities and different possibilities. They have different societal rituals and
norms.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good word. Societal norms, and this is what is being taken on board and then just used, and then the whole thing. That is why the Quran is being reinterpreted so many times. That is why it's good that it's so vague and ambiguous, because you can put anything in there. That's why it still serves its purpose today, when people suddenly come up and say, well, it's so scientifically accurate and all that, and all this nonsense. And it takes like hours and hours of research to do away with this and show that this is stupid. But it lends itself, the text lends itself to this kind of interpretation depending on what you want it to mean.
Oh, we've been joined again by Abul Mulhid.
Yeah, I think he's got some computer problems. Okay, guys, wrap it up. We have 10 minutes.
Can you hear me now?
Back. Yes.
Am I back?
Yes.
Whee! I don't know. Maybe maybe it's too late now. I don't know.
No, keep going. So what
Microsoft?
But it also had a little bit to do with like what you were talking about. I think I don't know. I didn't hear all this. But anyway, yeah. But this is the thing that I listen to some people. What they're talking, and it's like, I mean, in one way, I agree with like Klingschor that it's you use like scriptures to fit the situation and your agendas and so on. But it's also like there's like a kind of a denial that that ideologies and worldviews and so on affect our behavior. So I think it's kind of like a denial that the human neocortex exists and that it have some kind of influence on our behavior. I mean, yes, in some situations it's also like the limbic system and like the amygdala and so on. But let's face it, the neocortex is like the dominant part of the human brain, and so it runs on like softwares.
You know what? Can I clarify this? Because I think I have a way to reconcile this.
Yeah.
What I say I'm sorry, I've spoken a lot, so I apologize. But what I would say is, or what I think best reconciles this is that no one's denying that people's beliefs aren't motivating or contrary. It's people's beliefs about the world and what's going on that are the key motivations for their actions. But what I would say is, it isn't simply that the belief just jumps straight out of the Quran and into someone's head. People get their beliefs from their culture, from their culture's interpretations and understandings of the texts and the history and these narratives. So that's what I would say. is that it isn't purely Quran equals my beliefs. It's that there's actually a cultural matrix, an interpretive matrix that goes through, and that cultural environment is the key deciding factor on, normally I think, on what parts are accepted and how they're interpreted. Does that make sense? So it is people's beliefs, but it's, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I
don't know.
I have to agree with you 100%.
Ah, quick, do the alarm symbol. It's
Yeah. I couldn't find that hadith about,
Oh, sorry. You guys, I've talked too much, so you guys just chat, and I'll find the hadith for you.
Well, I don't know. I thought about. I mean, I was trying to say something about the things that we were talking about last time. So I go through these different ideologies and how I think they affect people and so on. So if we start with Christianity, I mean, is Christianity a peaceful religion? I mean, it depends on, as Klingschor says, I mean, it depends on how you interpret the text and so on. But I would say it's not a peaceful religion because, I mean, look, if you read the Bible, it's not a nice book. I mean, it's, I don't know, it's lots of parts of it's just resentful, psychopathy all the way. And if you look at the history of Christianity, you have mass murder and death squads and inquisition and torture and burning people alive. And yes, you can't maybe always draw a straight line from the Bible and so on to that, but it is a kind of not a nice history.
Look at the central tenet of Christianity. It's nailing a man to a cross.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny. They sacrifice God. He sends his own son, and then I have to sacrifice you. I have to torture you to death, so that I will be able to forgive the sins of others. Okay, but then I wanted to jump to Hinduism. So Hinduism, I mean, first, Hinduism is I don't know what you call a collection name. I think it was first used by the British colonials, but correct me if I'm wrong, I think. Anyway, so this, but what you mean by Hinduism is probably the Vedic tradition. And the funny thing about the Vedic tradition is that it arrived with the Aryan or the Indo-Aryan invasion, and they were, Indo-Europeans. So in some way, they had a Sanskrit is a Indo-European language, very close to the Proto-Indo-European language, and many scholars think that it's not that the Indo-European language has a common origin, but also they have the religions have a common origin. So if you look at, for example, the Hindu god Indra, it's very similar to our Norse god Thor, or the Hellenistic god Zeus. And it's not completely peaceful, so I think it's possible for Hindu thugs to find some kind of inspiration there. And also one particular script that is a little bit older than is the Bhagavad Gita. And the Bhagavad Gita is it's before the battle of Kurukshetra. Krishna are having this dialogue with the Prince Arjuna. The Prince Arjuna, he sees on the other side all his the Mashaykh and so on that he have to fight and kill, and he feels a little bit bad about that. So then Krishna comes and you have to exercise your Dhamma, and it's you're from the warrior caste, and caste is, I think, is a Portuguese word, but you're from this kind of you're a warrior, and therefore you have to do what you have to do. So the Bhagavad Gita is really trying to combine spirituality with more pragmatic kind of, the warrior has to do what he has to do. So if you think about Jainism, well, Jainism is more it's the core teachings in Jainism is really non-harming, and if you have to know something about Jainism, it is non-harming. So therefore, yes, there are few of them, but they are pretty influential also. So we talk about Buddhism. Buddhism is very similar to Jainism, and one important thing I have to say about Buddhism is that it's not before Christianity, this idea that it is faith that is the most important thing or the most essential thing about religion. I mean, it hadn't evolved yet. Back in the days of the Buddha, it was more about what you do, and it's not even necessary to, I mean, for Buddhists you can be a Muslim or a Christian and still be a Buddhist in some way. It's more keeping the precepts and doing that kind of things that is the important thing. So, and also many Buddhist scholars, they're kind of kufr. It's not keeping the precepts. So it's more this idea that faith is important. So what I want to say about this gentleman, I don't remember his name. He talked about, but look at what the Buddhists is doing to the Rohingya Muslims, and I think that's a little bit. I mean, it's definitely disturbing, but it's I think it's completely impossible to find, as I said, a justification for what they are doing. And it's also not just that they kind of find a justification. It's like the opposite. I mean, if you read the Polycanon, it's like they're kufr. If they are killing people and doing all these things, it's like they are per definition not Buddhist anymore. And I find it a little bit similar to when Christians says that it's because of atheism that like Stalin and Pol Pot did what they did. It is not because of atheism. Atheism is like a-dragonism, as Sheikh Stopspamming like to say, and it's like it's because of their like perverted Sheikh Stopspamming. This like their perverted version of Marxism that motivated these guys. And I think in Pol Pot's case, I think it was maybe like some kind of paranoid schizophrenic, who knows. But anyway, so these Buddhists in this western part of Burma, I mean, it's their nationalism, it's this power vacuum, and they're new to democracy, and then it's their nationalism that is motivating them, and definitely not Buddhism. Maybe they like say, okay, but we are the Buddhists, and now we're gonna use our like tribal, it's tribalism and nationalism, definitely not Buddhism. And I think, yes, if you want to find an excuse, you can find something else, but it certainly doesn't help if you have a book that constantly saying that you should, like, kill the mushrikeen and like فَضْرِبْ فَوْقَ الْأَعْنَاقِ وَضْرِبُوا مِنْهُمْ كُلَّ بَنَانٍ. It certainly doesn't help, and I think, I'm sorry, but I think human beings has a neocortex, and we are motivated by our ideologies, and what kind of world views we have is important, I think. Finished.
Yes, I would completely almost agree with that. Just that Klingschor said that the book is a small percentage, but even that small percentage, some books are more potent than other books, and that's I think where we divide here.
No, I don't think so. Because I agree that like it's easy to justify militancy with Islamic tradition. It's hard to justify militancy with Buddhist tradition. Absolutely, Islamic tradition is far better disposed. I mean, it has a glorified holy war tradition. It's far more amenable to that kind of militancy. So I don't disagree with that. I think Islamic tradition is far easier to use for that kind of stuff, and is even arguably perhaps far more likely to produce that kind of reaction. Although you'd have to look at some sort of comparative data to make that assertion, which I don't have.
Oh, okay.
We've been joined by Pard again. Welcome back, Pard. We're nearly done.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Thank you. Yeah, I just listened when you were talking about the arson in the Swedish mosque, and you did talk about that a couple of moments, did you?
We talked about that last show.
What? How did that? Oh, that was weird. I must have listened to the wrong file or something. Yeah, but I just whatever. I just have to tell you something that has happened in kind of after that in Sweden. This is freaking hilarious and shows you what kind of clowns are in the Swedish Democrats. This is coming from a member of, not even a member, it's from a politician in the third biggest political party in Sweden, and he posted on Facebook that after that this mosque had burned down, he said, or it had burnt, he said that we should forbid Islam in Sweden and let them have their seances at home. And then he said that what was it? These people may now know how it is to live under constant fear of getting raped and robbed. and when there was a manifestation for against this, it was a demonstration against this arson. He said that when talking about the leftist, which for this party means everyone but them, he said that if you give them enough rope, they will hang themselves. So he is basically saying that well, in a couple of years, the Muslims will kill all the gays and the communists, so we're rid of them.
Do you know the great irony here?
Yeah.
Is that conservatives whenever something happens, like, I don't know, for example, the Sydney attack, right? And so I, for example, made a comment that it's unfortunate this is probably going to result in a pretty crappy backlash against Muslims in Australia.
Yeah.
Now, the response to this, all that was just a prediction for the wider political ramifications and context for what was going on. But people jump on it like, oh, you don't care about the victims. You know, all you lefties, you never care about the victims. And yet, here we have an actual case in point of that, a real instance. Where, you know, fuck the victims, fuck the people who died or were injured, or, you know, it's all about me.
It's freaking hilarious, and this actually comes from. It's too bad this site doesn't exist in English because it's a site in Sweden, a blog where they just peruse all. They just go through all the Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts for every politician of this party, and just until they come up with something interesting like this. And this is on his public Facebook profile. He put this shit out, and this
is their version of the Hadith of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
This is their, just the zany weird shit.
Yeah, they are saying the weirdest shit and there was I just have to tell you because this is so freaking hilarious. It wasn't an MP or anything, but it was I think it was a local politician. He complained about raised taxes on vehicles in Sweden. The taxes have just been raised, and he complained about that without getting the fact that the Swedish Democrats actually voted for it. Which is
well,
they have put through these crazy what the hell is that word in English? It's in Swedish.
Rationalization.
No. I'm thinking about suggestions for laws and things in the parliament. They have put forth suggestions like that all immigrants have to plead loyalty to the king. Immigrants, even when they are citizens, they shouldn't be able to hold office for 10 years after they've been citizens. Just because we have these segregated societies that would be run by people with foreign loyalty. And this is the third greatest party in Sweden. This is kind of scary.
But you can't blame people for pushing right after the influx of all of these immigrants.
No, I do. I think it's crap.
I think that it's okay for people to be scared of such a thing, because if you put yourself in their place, a lot of people are losing their identity in some way.
But see, if it's identity, that's so meaningless. I mean, it's like, I feel a bit emotionally undermined in my self-conception.
If nationalism and patriotic feeling is meaningless, then that's one thing. But I just think that I can understand their views in pushing
I understand them too, right?
Immigrants.
I'll give you. I'm going to give you a personal story that happened to me today, actually. And then, sorry, we're getting close to the end, so I'll let you guys quickly summarize your views after that, and then we can end, and we'll get to Hadith of the day. But I was chatting to a family member, and I've had a similar conversation with previous family members, actually. And anyway, I was chatting to this particular family member, and we started talking about Islam and Muslims in Australia. And this family member was saying how he didn't like, I can't remember the exact precision for the conversation, but he didn't like that Muslims in Australia were so demanding and were, they're kind of like trying to impose their culture. And I asked him for examples. And what he brought up was Muslims they want to force us not to have Santa Claus at school, and so we had a discussion about this, and then I pointed out that actually what the state should be culturally and religiously neutral. So the actual situation here is in fact that people are objecting to all kids being forced into, say, these religious and cultural traditions, and that the state infrastructure such as schools should be a neutral ground for this kind of stuff. But it was just a hypothetical discussion. Anyway, I went home and I did some research, and I discovered some amazing information, right? So what I discovered was, for example, that the Islamic Council of Victoria, in 2010, their vice president had said, I don't believe that multiculturalism is about banning Santa or banning Christmas carols. They actually supported having Santa and Christmas, nativity and whatever, in schools. The Islamic Council of Victoria, okay. And then I discovered that a Muslim teenager had mounted, in the same year, I think, had mounted a campaign to preserve Christmas, responding to concerns about offending minorities. Okay, great. And then I discovered the only actual example that I found thus far, and I'll have to keep researching, the only actual example I found of Christmas being, that had a concrete case attached to it of a motivation I found of Santa or Christmas being banned from school seems to have been done due to the sensitivities of Hindu and Jewish children.
What about...
Right? So in other words, this narrative is crap. It's just crap.
What about the Sharia courts that are going on in Belgium right now? That's not...
Are they? See, again, it's whenever people say this stuff, or most rapists in Norway are Muslims, or
I don't know
Muslims. It's every time I go and investigate this stuff, it is almost always a lie. Almost always.
Just
it's
the fact that
disheartening.
earlier we were talking about how the guy got arrested for burning a Quran. Why do you think this is?
I don't know. I haven't looked into the case. I mean, it could be a genuine instance.
It's because of their sentiment.
But maybe. But most of these cases are just lies.
Well, okay.
I mean,
look at the example of how there are parts in the UK where Christian police are afraid to go in the...
What's the source?
No, I mean, I can actually find it for you, but just because I don't have the source right now doesn't mean this isn't true. Just hear me out, though.
No.
There are parts where, because of these, I mean, haven't you seen these people who walk in the streets? You can't drink here. This is a Muslim neighborhood. You can't be drunk here. This is a Muslim neighborhood. Haven't you seen these on YouTube? I mean,
Sharia police.
Yes,
Sharia police.
There's thugs, absolutely.
Right, and then these thugs have also made it so for police to be afraid to be in such neighborhoods during Ramadan because they can't eat or drink anything because they get, this is a Muslim neighborhood, don't eat or drink here during Ramadan. And, I mean, this just leads to other things more. The security is being put in the hands of the people from the mosque.
But hang on, you need to differentiate. How many people are just pumping themselves up just to be seen and heard? Look at this guy, Mo Ansari, for example. I mean, he's a twat, all right? But he was in all TV stations. He was on the radio. We had him on the show. He was everywhere because he appointed himself as a speaker for a certain group. And that was just he himself who did this. So there was no substance to anything that he said. It's just that some people create a whole lot of commotion around something, and then if you look at the focal point, the nucleus where everything comes from, you will see it doesn't really exist. So you need to differentiate. That's why I always, if I go through the news that I am reading, I always try and verify them to see if others are reporting the same thing. But I found that a lot of others are just copying. So if you get these news, these sensational news, a lot of times you will find that there is like a small nugget of truth somewhere which has been pumped up out of all proportion. And this is my personal experience. I've been caught by this. I admit this. I've made mistakes like that as well. And here I need to support Klingschor, who says you need to be skeptical of all these reports, of all these instances that you see, because a lot of times there's a lot of politics involved here too. I mean, not that it's not true. It's not that it's completely unsubstantiated. Absolutely not. But there's a lot of cases where it is, and there's a lot of cases where it's just out of proportion.
Well, I'm not saying they're all true, but I was saying that there are examples, and this leads for people to be afraid of foreigners. I mean, this creates xenophobia because of this, you know.
Well, and quite rightly so. You need to be careful. You need to know what you're doing. And this is why we are doing this show, to inform people of what reality is. Yes, we are being, we are the ones that are being accused of being pro-Islam, that we are giving dawah just because we're trying to be objective, just because we're trying to show both sides of the coins. And I object to any kind of, like deceit, even if it is against Islam. I'm not here to bash Islam. I'm here to represent the objective view, as objective as is possible. Yes, there's a lot of shit coming from Islam. There's a lot of, the mother load of bad ideas. I agree with all that, but it's not all that. So we need to be objective, and we need to try and stick to the facts.
Can I give you an example?
Sure.
If we have time, of course. I'm sure we can
go 5 minutes. That's fine. Sorry.
Just really quickly, I was going to say, I don't have the source for you, but I will look for it to give it to you, Klingschor. But the example from Belgium, which I think was from Belgium, which is pretty interesting and detailed. I actually saw a documentary about this. So I have to look exactly where I can find some written text to show you. But it was showing how they were making they were allowing marriages to, instead of go through the secular law, they were going through the Islamic law, just because it was freedom of religion. They allow them to practice them, and so they were like, if this is my family, I want my family to follow Islamic law. This was creating problems for the women, for women's rights, the same problems women have in Islamic countries, where they're not allowed to ask for divorce as a man is, and such things. Like the example is the Muslims themselves are suffering.
Yes, and I have this. I've actually got a recording which I use in one of my videos where the Sharia judge listens to the woman and says, "Oh, you've only been beaten once, and it's not so serious." Yeah.
And so these are the things I'm thinking of. This is like when you think of Belgium. I don't know what you guys think of. I follow politics, maybe that's why, but I think of the camps and the immigrant rights and the immigrant rules, and how everyone is allowed to come in Belgium, and how they're losing their population to other people.
Yeah, but you need to know. But can you generalize from this?
No, you can't generalize. But I'm just saying. But you can understand why some people will go to the right. Like Power was saying, some of the things Power was saying was very, very leftist. And I have some Scandinavian friends from Sweden, and I know that they don't agree with what he was saying. He was saying a lot of political talk, and I just wanted to fill in that for that part.
But my claim, and sorry, this will be right. Keep on going back and forth, so keeping this going. So we'll do this. We'll finish this next show. But my claim is that the actual level of hysteria and anger and xenophobia and attacks, violent attacks and graffiti, the response is just completely disproportionate to the actual instances of bad things that Muslims do and the actual threat that Islam poses in these countries. I think it's completely disconnected. You also have Jewish courts where women are also how get the sharp end of the stick
Yeah, but that doesn't
in
make it
European
right.
countries. Huh?
Of
This
course.
halakha. So I mean, no one makes a deal about that.
Problem with them. I mean, it's not
No,
good.
but why don't you have the same level of response? You know, it's completely
Because the
disproportionate.
number of Jews is not so much that it's actually creating those.
But there was never any hysteria.
Or as much as
You know.
the number of Jews, we would have a problem.
But there was never any hysteria over it. So it just seems completely. It seems like the level of response to the Muslim issue is disproportionate. Anyway, look, we'll continue this another time. So I'll allow you guys to give us your final thoughts, and then we'll finish, and we can continue this discussion next time. Because I think this is a really good discussion. Okay, so I'll begin with Ask an Atheist. Do you want to give us your final thoughts, and then we'll go to the others, and then we'll give the Hadith of the day, and we'll be done.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is the first time I've listened to the show. I'm still trying to get a handle on exactly what you're trying to focus on, although my feelings towards Islam is that it should not be allowed to be practiced in public. It should be those who practice it should just keep it to themselves. I think Islam is dangerous.
All right, and Arash, do you want to give us?
Okay, then let's just say cheers, and hopefully see you next week again.
Great show,
Okay.
guys.
Thank you.
Arash, what about your final thoughts?
Just wanted to say it was a great show, and I thought it was very, very. I was in the whole time, completely with my interested me the whole time.
Awesome. Thanks for contributing, and it's really great to have this discussion being stimulated. So please come next time. It'll be great. All right, and finally Abu Mulhid.
I couldn't find this hadith. You know, we were talking about like it's not the sickness that is. I don't remember the hadith. I don't know if you.
Well, I actually have a hadith for the day, which I might just tell you quickly now. Jabir reported Allah's Messenger is saying, and this is in Sahih Muslim, there is no transitive disease.
Yeah, I think it's that.
Sahih Muslim hadith number, or the reference is 2222A, but I'm sure this is a redundant mess. But you get the picture. There's the hadith. So
yeah, that is brilliant. Yeah, and I have a suggestion. It's kind of funny. I think one smart thing to, like, a subject that we can talk about on this show would be to like things in the Islamic tradition and also maybe like in Islamic culture that comes from non-monotheistic or non-Abrahamic religions. Like, for example, if you might find like the 5 times a day, praying 5 times a day may come from Zoroastrianism, or maybe it become this like the crescent moon, where what's the origin of that, and things like that. So things that exist in the tradition of Islam and maybe in the culture of Islam that is from other religions than Abrahamic religions. That would be funny to discuss.
I mean, we've done this in several videos, but I don't think we've ever put it into one. Okay.
But I think you have to maybe make some kind of research before that. But I think it's a kind of fun thing to do, because that if you can show many of these cases, like it shows that Islam is just another invention of man and so on. So I think it's important.
We've done that to a certain extent and a certain degree, but we've never focused on it. We've sort of mentioned, this comes from there, or then the last time, or the time we talked about the history, we said, this comes from there, this comes from. So we have mentioned a lot of these things, but never as a like a concerted effort. Okay, thank you. Then it is my turn as the hadith of the day. This is also a very quick one. And this is Al-Asakul narrates that the Prophet said, "The Lord descends every night to the lowest heaven when 1/3 of the night remains, and he says, 'Who will call upon me that I may answer him? Who will ask of me that I may give him? Who will seek my forgiveness that I may forgive him?'" And on that bombshell,
See you guys later.
bye.